Well, hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of the From Chaos to Peace podcast, where I talk about how clutter is so much more than you think, and we put a spiritual twist on clearing that clutter to get organized. Thank you so much for allowing me back into your ears. Well, hello, my friend. I'm your host, Conny Graf. Welcome back to another short, easy listening summer 2025 episode. My goal is that these mini episodes are here to help you pause, reflect, and that you can take away one small mindset shift that brings you from chaos to peace. Plus, I give you a recommendation for a podcast episode from the past for further listening. So today I want to talk about perfectionism and the concept of pulling yourself towards a goal versus pushing yourself towards a goal. This came up with one of my clients a little while ago, and with the new moon in Virgo coming up this week, August 22nd, I thought this was a great time to revisit perfectionism. Because Virgo is all about order, structure, and making things better. But sometimes that earthy energy can tip into overdrive, especially for us practical, responsible types who want to do everything the right way. Everything just right. Can you relate? Well, let's explore what happens when we're pushing ourselves to reach a goal versus when something is pulling us forward. Let's start with pushing. Pushing tends to feel, well, pushy, of course, and it's effort-based, effort-heavy. Forceful, often based on willpower and pressure on ourselves, or pressure from the outside on ourselves, or perceived pressure from the outside. Mostly it's inside pressure. We do something because we feel like we should. And you know what I think about should. I have some podcast episodes about that word. Or we're also afraid of what will happen if we don't do what we feel like we should do. It can come from external expectations and pressure, as I mentioned, or from that loud inner critic, the bully, how I call it, that is telling us we're not doing enough, or we're not good enough, or not perfect enough. Whatever the language is your bully tells you. So now, of course, this isn't always bad. Nothing is just good or bad. Nothing is just black or white. But what happens is with this pushing is, and that's where hustle culture started, right? Over time, it can lead to a lot of resistance, burnout, and losing touch with what we actually want, right? Because we're not listening to what we actually want. We just push ourselves to what we think we should do. Now then there is pulling. Pulling is so much different. Pulling is energy-led. It's inspired. It's intuitive. And it also feels more organic. You're drawn towards something because it lights you up and because it feels aligned. The action might still take a lot of effort, but there's momentum that comes with it, not struggle. You're guided by values, by your values, by a purpose or your purpose. And mostly you're guided by your inner clarity and not fear or pressure. So in short, we could say pushing comes from the mind and from fear. Pulling, on the other hand, comes from the heart and from purpose and from clarity. And this ties really into the work I do around chaos versus peace and supportive versus restrictive order. Sometimes being organized or disciplined is only happening because we're just pushing ourselves, especially people with a dominant earth element and all of us who like lists, structures, and getting things done. We can fall into this trap. I certainly did when I was younger. I can go so far that we don't even realize we're pushing ourselves through fear. And then when our order becomes rigid, or when routines start to feel like a cage instead of support, we have moved into restrictive order and the need to control, to be perfect, and to prove something. To who? Take your pick. Often to our internal bully. But again, what if we can shift that? What if we can be pulled towards a vision? Towards, what if we can be pulled forward by a vision or by desire that actually feels good, that feels aligned, that's creating supportive order? It still has structure, but there's ease and flexibility in it. And it's not about being perfect. So way back in episode 59, I had Dr. Camilla Williams on the podcast, and she talked about this idea of pushing and pulling in such a clear way. She said a high achiever is someone who's pulled towards a goal, and they want that gold star, and they want the challenge because it excites them. They're in it for the joy of it. A perfectionist, on the other hand, feels pushed, feels driven by fear and worry and the need to avoid failure or disapproval. And again, disapproval by whom? Oftentimes by our own bully. And that pushing can spiral into I'm not good enough. I have to earn the love. I have to earn the success or the acceptance, even my own. So perfectionism and that pushing, can you feel it? It's really exhausting. And it sucks the joy out of what we're doing, if we even start at all. And if we do start, it often stops us from finishing. If your perfectionism keeps you from finishing things, and if that resonates with you, go check out episode 153 that I recorded called How to Finish, because I talk about Jon Acuff's book Finish. And one of the ideas I love in there is all about the noble obstacles. Noble obstacles are sneaky little lies we tell ourselves. Things that sound reasonable and responsible often too, but really they're just perfectionism in disguise. So noble obstacles could be reasons we invent to avoid finishing a task. Noble obstacles often make a good goal harder than necessary. And it helps a perfectionist to maintain a respectable self-image if they don't finish, right? Like, oh, I couldn't finish because of this and this reason. And this reason is then often a noble obstacle. Again, noble obstacles make the goal harder than it has to be, and they help us avoid to get to the finish line. They help us avoid hard things or facing that maybe we can't do something perfectly or how our bully tells us it has to be. Also, they help us avoid the feeling of doing it imperfectly. We never have to face that fear of not doing it perfectly, or maybe not even being able to do it perfectly. Like whatever that means, perfectly, right? Most things can't be done perfectly. And that really scratches on our insecurity inside and the fear of not being enough and of failing as a person. So an example of a noble obstacle is the if-then thinking or the black and white thinking. Whenever there's only two extreme options available, then it's probably a noble obstacle. Things like, I can't do it perfectly, so I might as well not even start doing it or not doing it at all. Or I can't get started until I have set up everything just right, or until I have all the information I need. Or The third one, I might as well not finish as whatever I've done so far isn't perfect. And that third one, that is one that trips me up a lot. It used to trip me up almost all the time. Now I may catch myself, but it's still something that trips me up. For example, I had this affinity with diaries or journals and paper calendar. And so I would get a new one for the new year, and then I would write in it like birthdays or appointments and events that I knew already I'm going to have. But without a fail, I would make a mistake somewhere. And then I felt all was lost already. And the new year didn't even have started yet. And I never even really could use the new journal yet. It was just in the preparation for the new year, and I would make a little mistake. And oh my God, that was the end of it. And I abandoned the journal because it wasn't perfect. And like I said, I still may have that issue a little bit. I can totally catch myself because I do prefer digital over paper for exactly that reason. I'm very well aware of it now. But so if any of this sounds familiar to you, the invitation this week for you is notice where you might be pushing yourself out of fear, out of pressure, or in the name of getting it right. Or where you're setting up noble obstacles so you don't have to finish to save face, or noble obstacles to make it look like, oh, well, of course you couldn't finish, or of course you can't even start. So if you come across that in your thinking or in your daily life, ask yourself, what would it feel like to be pulled instead of pushed like this? What would supportive order look like in this area of your life? And what might become possible if you let go of the need to do it perfectly? Maybe it's in your space, or in your schedule, or in your finances, or even in your self-talk. Well, actually, especially in your self-talk. Again, if you want more of this topic of perfectionism, you can listen to episode 153 called How to Finish, or my interview with Camilla Williams, episode 59, How Perfectionism Gets in the Way. And hey, if you'd love a little help dealing with perfectionism and finding your way to a more peaceful productivity instead of perfectionistic pushing, I'd love to support you. You can book a free 30-minute call and bring your chaos to me, and I help you identify one clear, doable action step to move you from chaos to peace, starting right where you are. Whether that's clearing your path to peace of mind by letting go of mental and emotional clutter, peace of space by letting go of physical and digital clutter, or peace and profits, eliminating financial clutter. I'm here to help you find your version of supportive order and more peace, and we can chat about whether working together feels like a fit. You'll find the link in the show notes. Okay, my friend, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. Talk to you next time, and let's keep creating more peace in our life, one day at a time, by pulling, not pushing.